Junkies, hello. God, this has been an awfully long time coming because, of course, this is the Best Picture winner, Oscar, Nomadland. And it's only kind of just recently been released on Disney Plus, and we wanted to hold off and watch it at the cinema.
And it's the first real film we've done for ages, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Well, first trip to the cinema.
Yeah.
It was quite an emotional moment, wasn't it?
It was very emotional, I thought. I just wasn't prepared for it. I mean, it was exciting.
Well, anyway, so it was the first film we've seen at the cinema, Nomadland. It's directed by Chloé Zhao, who directed an indie feature called Rider, which I have to confess I didn't watch. She also is about to direct or about to release Eternals, which is a Marvel franchise film, odd film. And this Nomadland is very much an American art house film.
Yeah.
Starring Frances McDormand, who we'll all know from Three Billboards, infamously, and Fargo. You know, a cracking indie American actress. In summary, it's less what it's a film about, it's more a film about what it makes you think.
And feel. Yeah.
And so it's about a woman who essentially, the film starts, and this is no spoiler, she's unpacking all of the items of her passed away husband. She lives in a town that the local industry has effectively sort of run out of steam.
Yes.
Everyone's been made unemployed. You know, there are a lot of these kind of cities, there are here in this country in the north as well, that are defined by one industry.
Yeah.
And communities thrive around it, and if that industry disappears, Detroit is another one around the motoring industry, you know, that community literally disappears. And so she's kind of a hand-to-mouth existence, isn't she? Working at places like Amazon, but she, you know, she's not proud. She'll take any work.
Yeah.
She'll do anything, but there isn't much of it.
No.
And she essentially...
She's a hard worker, as she tells us.
She's a hard worker.
Yeah,
she likes work. She likes work. And so effectively, in the aftermath of her husband dying, she essentially hits the road. But I don't want that to sound like she hits the road and turns her back on her life, because she actually works all the way through this. You know, getting money for petrol, getting money for, you know, to sustain herself.
And actually, now I think about it, the funny thing is I can't actually remember how she set off on the road.
In her van.
Yeah, no, I know, I don't mean that. I know how, literally, but what made her go?
Well, that was one of the oddest things about this. I was fully expecting a film in which we saw Frances McDormand make a decision to hit the road.
Yeah.
And whilst there are a lot of these people, you know, she hooks up with a community called the Nomads.
Yeah.
Obviously the title of Nomadland. And the idea being these are a community of people who have essentially have eschewed the kind of standard,
normal
conventional
life.
way. You know, there's a moment where the leader of this group, you could argue it's a bit cultish, was talking about, you know, we're not just, you know, we don't want to pray to the dollar. We don't want to be, you know, the workhorses and the pack horses of, you know, capitalism and all this kind of stuff. But they had a very valid point, I think, which is, and I felt the biggest message pulsing through this was, be careful if you live your life thinking you're going to get the return you want to get upon stopping working.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work like that.
No.
And that for me was the biggest lesson in this film.
Yeah. And that happens for countless people in this country as well as that you spend your whole life working, you retire, and then you die two years later. I mean, that's a common fact.
Well, I mean, I've been struggling with my mental health recently, and I have to confess it's a really difficult thing to find the balancing act, because on the one hand, everyone who loves me says, oh, relax, stop, don't do things. And then on the other hand, you wonder how much of not stopping and relaxing is what stops you from falling down a hole. And it's a similar kind of dynamic, which is why it was kind of intriguing. It was kind of right and wrong that I saw it last night, because I wasn't in a particularly good place. But it kind of reminds you that when you do stop, do we essentially stop?
Yeah.
You know, and yet at the same time, that isn't the message of the film. The message of the film really is about being on the road, moving, doing it for yourself, not being part of the system, but you know, not scrounging off the system either.
No, but also a huge part of it, if not, I would say, certainly more than 50%, 75% of the whole thing is camaraderie.
Yes.
It's like what people feel for each other.
Yeah,
and she goes from belonging, and she goes from one group of people to another, and the common factor is that everybody supports everybody.
Yeah.
There's not a single aggressive act, or which I thought was quite remarkable actually, or any idea of being threatened.
No.
Because I actually thought that while it was happening. I was thinking, surely something's going to happen as a jeopardy thing, but it didn't. Yeah.
So what were your anticipations going, and what were you expecting as you went into this?
What I was expecting was exactly what I got, which was Frances McDormand going on a road trip in a van. Sorry.
Because the trailer really upset you.
Yeah, that was because of the dying, wasn't it? And they start off with her partner having died, and it's very difficult not to cry at that bit. well, bits of it, sent me absolutely bawling. It would do anybody.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it's a very slow film. It's a very lackadaisical film. It's not a film, for example, I would have recommended Maddie and Kiki seeing necessarily, not at their age, because I don't think it's talking about stuff that's necessarily relevant to them. There are young characters in it. I mean, I leant over at one point and said to you, this is all well and good, and there's something very attractive about hitting the road and driving for freedom and feeling unfettered and all that. But one thing I immediately felt in the film was I'd have really missed the company of young people.
Yeah.
Now this film adopts some really sort of, well, they're not unique, they're becoming increasingly used actually, but the technique of essentially parking Frances McDormand within a real community. So a lot of the people she comes across, not all of them, but a lot of the people she comes across are real.
Yeah.
They're real people effectively playing themselves or embellished versions of themselves.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, was it Swankie, the name of that
Yeah,
character?
yeah.
And these are real characters, and I thought it was a really intriguing watch to see how, and a huge tribute to both Frances McDormand and the director, that she wasn't vying for screen space. But when I say that, you can still be vying for screen space in your responses. I thought it was an incredibly generous inquiry, almost, even by Frances McDormand, the actress, as much as her character.
Yeah.
She was I think what the director did that was very clever, it's a little bit like what I did with my short film, which is what was happening for Frances McDormand was very equivalent to what was happening for her character, which was she was meeting these people for the first time. And so there were a couple of moments in there when she met people and when she said goodbye to people. I think they were real moments.
Oh, I do too, yeah.
So the emotions and the responses and reactions were very real.
Yeah.
How did you think that worked, that meshing of documentary reality and fiction?
I thought it worked brilliantly, but only because she's so brilliant. She's eminently watchable. I can watch her face forever. And because she's responding all the time, even if she's not speaking, her face is responding. It works. And
she manages to make. There's one particular scene where she's caught, on the hoof, needing a poo suddenly, and she goes to poo in the shot.
This makes it sound very attractive.
Yeah, no, and it's not an attractive moment, but my God, if someone sort of deserves an Oscar for being able to have diarrhea and do it on camera in a sort of really kind of classy way, then Frances McDormand has won that accolade. I found myself, the filmmaker, constantly intrigued with. Certainly, there were a couple of scenes where one essentially contributor / character from the real Nomad group talks about her diagnosis with cancer. Another chap talks about the suicide of his son, and the way they tell these stories, they're clearly real. They're real, and you've got someone acting opposite them. And I'd be fascinated to know how Frances McDormand felt about that, because essentially she was using a sleight of hand, and again, it's another tribute to her that she managed to park to one side for these people. The idea that she was an actor acting, because she hasn't actually lost her husband in real life.
No.
She's acting that loss, but she's relating to people as if she has had that loss. And I thought that there were going to be moments there where it jarred. So I thought, on a sort of philosophical level, I thought that was a real challenge.
In some respects, I would say I thought those moments, it didn't bother me in terms of the acting or not acting bit, but I thought they were the least I thought the most successful bits of this film for me, what she does, the director, is she takes you through landscape that is stunning. Not all of it, some of it's just average, but most of it is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, the cinematography's got, well, you say the cinematography's gorgeous, but the landscape's gorgeous.
The landscape itself is gorgeous. And that, in a way, is almost enough. And then you have Frances McDormand walking through it. She meets some people and she interacts with them. She meets some other people and she doesn't interact with them. And her life and her journey is a journey. She goes to the end of the road and then comes back again, it would seem. And I just thought those moments of her in a landscape. Now, afterwards, I was totally in it when we watched it. But afterwards I thought, does that make a film? Does that make a film, masses and masses of shots of Frances McDormand in front of a landscape? Because I think probably what I was thinking afterwards, but not at the time, was, I mean, there are some scenes where they're in a group and it's like a group session. It's like either a 12-step program or, as Mark says, a cult thing or a religious thing where they're all talking about how to get to the next stage, and people go round and each of them talk. Group therapy, basically.
Yeah, and I don't want that to diminish the strength of what they're saying, because I think there's a lot of merit to what they believe and what their values are and the nomading. Because when I use the word cult, I thought people would go, all right, let's dismiss it.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely key. Yeah, and I think they work best. Those scenes where there's a group. There's a guy who quite likes her and you don't know whether there's any romance in the air. And really the big sort of question mark throughout the film is she going to stay in one spot? That's the thing. The 2 times it crops up are with this guy who's going to visit his grandson and who likes her and would like her to come and stay, and her sister who likes her and lends her money and would like her to come and stay.
But I thought that trip back to her sisters was the most sort of, it was the biggest pinch point in a sense. Because you had a sense of the conflict between her sister's partner, the real estate agents, talking about real estate, and it was the only time you really felt she was alone and isolated and potentially judged for whatever her lifestyle choice was.
Yeah, I don't think they gave us enough of the...
No, and I wondered whether there could be a bit more. I mean, I thought it was a very powerful scene between her and her sister, and I really liked all of the stuff, which I guess you relate to, because you're a runner away from everything.
Yeah, I'm Bolton,
I'm a stayer putter,
yeah.
and therein lies so many stories about my upbringing. But insofar as her sitting on that bed and her talking to her sister, I thought that was a really rich moment, because I think we do all divide. I think we all do divvy up into those who are essentially on the move and Bedouin-like and needing to roam and not wanting to feel almost trapped.
Not to put down roots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was a really rich story. I mean, I think as creatures, as human beings, we are nomadic, aren't we? In the savannah, we are naturally inclined to travel. And I thought this film was rich in many different ways. I thought it tapped into the American frontier idea, it tapped into the American Western idea. There was a reference to their founding fathers of America. I think there's a lovely moment where I think it justifies her behaviour as almost like that of the founding fathers, which I thought was really nice.
The quirkiness of America as well. I mean, there's brilliant quirkiness.
And the vast openness. I mean, you're reminded, what was quite nice was we had this dramatic landscape and it wasn't an obvious place like the Grand Canyon. We were like, is this Dakota? Or is this, where is this? Nebraska? And so you do get a sense that America, you never really see that side of America. So, you get all the city stuff, and you sometimes get the Western thing, but that huge expanse, and I was left with this real sense of tiny little people scurrying around an enormous expanse of space.
Too. Yes, I was too.
And I thought that's why the end shot was so sort of poignant and emotive, where she returns back, in a sense, like a salmon. She returns back to her home in the sort of blighted town, and that for me, weirdly, for a film which is on the move and nomadic, she doesn't really get very far.
No, you're not supposed to in travelling. You just can't.
Well, yeah, but part of me was expecting her to travel across America, and I suppose in a sense it was quite a small circular process. We were going down the same roads a lot, whereas I was expecting new tundra. I thought, oh God, they've gone all the way down the Rockies.
California.
They weren't moving to that extent.
No, they weren't. But I do think that part of the thing of travelling is the road rather than getting to your destination.
Yeah, but my point was but you can still be on the road without a destination and go much further than they went. She got back to Amazon. My point being...
No, exactly.
This was a film about the cyclical nature of it too, and how it can be quite localised, this nomadic kind of roaming lifestyle.
But don't you think that was because as she met all these people, and all these people, if you like, see her as a receptacle of all these people's opinions and whatever, and she's trying to decide what the way is forward, and she decides a certain amount down the road that she's going to go back.
Is that how you read it? So she only went so far?
Yes.
That's interesting. So she wasn't fully nomadic.
No.
What was the phrase that they said they'd use if you die, or if they do see you down the road? See you down the road. I thought that was a bit overused, actually. Maybe it's their phrase. I mean, see you down the road.
It could hardly be anything else, Mark. They should have come up with another one.
So when one of the characters dies, and I've got a horrible feeling the character actually did die in real life. The leader of this sort of nomadic group says, see you down the road, and I thought it was sweet. It's born of his loss of his son through suicide, and it's his way of saying it's not final. It's born of a way of saying it's not final, which is lovely. I think there's something very poetic about that.
I don't know what you felt about this. I felt there were some moments. I felt it in the cinema, but I felt it acutely afterwards that really did not work at all.
Which were.
There's a point where one of the women, the woman we're talking about, I think actually talks about what's made life worthwhile, and she talks about things in terms of landscape, but in terms of incredible things that she's seen, like a huge moose. Yes. I mean, who gets to see a moose? Nobody. Yeah, so it fits. Yeah, no, but it fits. Yeah. But then she carries on with the places that she's seen. What I thought was unnecessary, that then the director takes Frances to see a big buffalo. I didn't think there was any need for that. We'd bought it. And the other bit that I didn't think was... she underlined a few things, almost as if we weren't capable for making that up for ourselves. Or maybe maybe
There was one shot that particularly got you though, was when someone obviously sent back a clip of all the swallows or the sand martins or whatever it was.
Just because of Liz.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I thought there were. I think for anyone who's lost someone, as you have, and as we all have, you know, and especially as you travelled with Liz. Sorry, I'll pause right there.
Keep talking.
And especially as you travel, I mean, it really is, for me, you were just asking, is a film really made of a character standing in landscapes? And I think, yes, absolutely. I think.
Oh, you do?
Absolutely. I thought it was all the more powerful for the fact that narratives and stories are totally artificially constructed by us.
That's true.
You know, we construct fake narratives that we all then have mental health collapses about not achieving. I'm in the middle of one at the moment. And, you know, I think, you know, your dear ex-partner Liz fell foul of it. You know, she committed suicide. And I think this is a film in which it marvelled at sort of infinitesimal insignificance, but it also marvelled at our capacity to pass through things.
Yeah.
And I think it's a film about passing through. It's a film about taking stock. It's a film about being aware of your space. I mean, I think Nadia could get a lot from this film if she could get past the idea that, you know, and I think unfortunately for this film, a lot of people are going to go, I don't know if I'm in the mood for that. I don't know if I'm in the mood for that. And I think that's going to be a big problem for this film generally, because you're never going to really be in the right mood for it. It's not a downer, but it asks you to think about the meaning of life.
Yeah, it's actually not a downer, and I don't know what you felt, but I didn't feel overall it was a depressing film at all. Of course there are some depressing moments, how could there not be? And those moments will speak individually to every person who's had a different experience of that. But overall, believe me, it's as uplifting as it is downbeat, isn't it? Did you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it made me feel both in the state of mind I was in last night. I mean, I had a moment where I really cried at one point. I can't remember what that was.
What was your bit?
But it made me feel absolutely hopeful and utterly hopeless.
Oh, right,
in equal measure. And I think that is life, isn't it?
It is a bit.
I think Frances played it perfectly. I thought the male actor who played her love interest played it really well.
He's a really good reliable actor.
I liked the meshing of documentary. I mean, I think at times when you felt we were at a point where, this is a real person talking. There's a few moments like that in Concrete Cowboy, actually, I thought as well, you know, where they were talking to the real riders. But yeah, so any other observations?
Well, my only other observation was, because I said there were two moments that didn't ring true for me, and the other one was, except for other than the buffalo. I don't know what you'll feel about this. You know the young guy that she meets and she goes over to talk to? They didn't need the Shakespearean sonnet. I thought that was totally...
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
I knew what they were trying to do. They were trying to, you know... I don't know what they were doing. Maybe Frances McDormand said, I'm not going to live my life as an actress without saying a Shakespearean sonnet. She had been a teacher.
She's about to appear in Macbeth, isn't she?
Is she?
Yeah,
maybe she thought, I'll have a go at it. I'll have a go.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, no, I didn't think that worked. And it goes on as she leaves and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that would be my only criticism, whether there were moments where I felt the director underlined points that we didn't need to have underlined. But overall, I think the thing is, Mark, I've just suddenly realised as I'm talking to you, I would want to go and see it again, but I wouldn't want to go and see it again for a bit.
No, exactly.
Which is an interesting
Joker,
point.
Though, which is in a different way does that.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, in summary, how would you summarise and score it?
She's brilliant. The director is really good. I mean, it's a real melding of the two, isn't it? She wrote the script as well, and so all of that. Fascinating for many reasons. I think,
it as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think if you've been to America and know the landscape, and doubly fascinating if you don't, which is me. Everybody in it is just so good, and I was absolutely with every group that she went to.
Would you like to live that lifestyle?
No.
Oh, right, that's interesting.
Which was an interesting thing.
As a Roma, that is odd.
Yeah, that is odd, and maybe that in a way is key. We could have started off with that, because I went into this film, that's what you're asking, thinking they're describing a life that I would like to live, and apparently quite a few people have chosen that life since that film came out. Yeah. But no, I thought the big
I want to
problem...
get back to my flat now.
Partly, but also the big problem with that life is that, okay, you're totally alone, and one could say I'm totally alone in my flat, but they mentioned this once, I think, you are getting older and more infirm.
As is your vehicle.
I mean, okay, she has only actually that we see, she only has one sort of huge point where she has to get help. But I thought, you can't do this. You can't. It's relying on the kindness of strangers. And whether I'm a very sort of untrustworthy person, I don't know. I thought I'd rather rely on the care of the NHS. I mean, which sounds a weird thing to say.
Okay.
But so in
well, I
that
suppose
respect,
again, you've got to remember in America, you haven't got that.
you
safety
haven't.
net. So
you
in
haven't.
a sense, this,
So I bet some people. I hate to say this, but I bet some people die by the side of the road.
yeah. So what would you give it? Did it live up to your expectations?
I'd give it 92.
I love the way you sort of went emphatically and lost 8% still off it. 90. I think I got exactly what I thought I was going to get. I think I was a bit surprised that the scope of the nomading didn't reach further.
Oh, I see. That's so fun.
I liked what I got. I thought
I
thought it was beautiful natural light. Almost ungraded. It reminded me a lot of Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven, you know, where he shot every bloody scene. I think it was Richard Gere in just that 1 hour. I mean, I think she just went for natural daylight, and it was absolutely beautiful. Landscape was beautiful. America was beautiful. Frances McDormand, faultless. Again, really complicated performance to execute, because she had to be both deferential, almost reverential, but at the same time true to her own character, which I think in order to achieve it, she will have kept her character very true to who she was. It was an incredibly generous and very unegotistical performance. And I think that the connection between Chloe Zhao and Frances McDormand was quite beautiful, because there were some really quite tender scenes, I thought. And I said to you afterwards, I said, it's very rare that you actually see a film that's not afraid of the female body in a woman in her 60s or 70s
absolutely.
or whatever she was. And not afraid to show it, not afraid to talk about it. She didn't care how she looked, and she looked beautiful, and there was something just really, I don't know, there was just something very real and liberating about that. I think spot on in terms of the nomad culture's attitude. I think if I could, I wish I had the courage to do that. I wouldn't, but you know, in an idealism, in an idyll, I would love to hit the road and just stay there forever. I think I'd have to take a course in mechanics, though, in order to ensure that it could go further than just the coast, further than just the county lines of Nebraska.
Maybe it's because you know the country better than me.
Yeah, and I like the way it was tied into, and I like the way they recreated almost a modern day seasonality to things. So in a sense, the return to Amazon, the factory, was that time of the year again, and I thought that's a curiously different sense of seasonal change. And I thought it was just interesting that Amazon agreed to this, when essentially the nomadic culture's line is anti-corporate.
Yeah.
And Amazon's one of the most successful corporate. Anyway, so I thought it was really beautiful. It's made me think about a lot, but I would probably I'd give it 94.
Oh, okay, so we're more or less agreed-ish on scale,
So, Mum, I'll see you down the road.
See you on down the road.
Just a longer road than the road that Frances McDormand went
No,
along.
mine would be shorter.
Yeah, well, right, okay, yours is a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.